Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 of our family's favorite dump and go crock pot meals. These are super easy to put together. There's like pretty much no prep work. You just put everything in the crock pot and you are good to go. So if you're looking for some easy and delicious dump and go slow cooker meals, just keep watching. I mentioned before on my channel, creamy Italian chicken is absolutely one of our family favorites. We've been making it for at least 15 years or so. I have a dedicated video for it. I'll link it down below, but it's one of the first ones that I did. But let me show you how to do this real quick. It's so easy. So in my crock pot, I'm going to add in some chicken breasts. Now, I happen to have fresh chicken breasts for this, but a lot of times when I make this, I will use frozen chicken breasts. I'm also going to add in some chicken broth to my crock pot. Now, if you are using frozen chicken breasts, I would not add any extra liquid until the end. You may not need it because the chicken will release juices on its own. I'm going to sprinkle some dry Italian dressing mix over the chicken. Now, if you don't want to use the Italian dressing mix and chicken broth, you can use bottled Italian dressing. A lot of people make this using the Olive Garden Italian dressing. Whatever your preference is, whatever you've got on hand. I'm also going to add in a can of cream of chicken soup and then the cream cheese. I used to separate this out. I used to just add the chicken broth, the Italian dressing, and the chicken, cook that. Once the chicken was done, then I'd add in the cream of chicken soup and the cream cheese. Now I just throw it all in at the same time. It works out. It works out just fine either way. So I'm going to cook this on high this day because I got it started a little later in the day. Cooked it for about 3 hours. You just want to cook it until your chicken is really tender and it's at least 165 degrees. Now, personal preference, once it's there, I like to remove the chicken breast and dice it up, but you can just shred it. You can use one of those meat mashers or remove it, shred it with a fork. And then you can totally eat this over pasta, over mashed potatoes. We prefer it over just plain white rice. So stinking good. Again, this is a family favorite. If you have not tried this, I highly recommend you give it a try. It is budget friendly and it's family friendly. This is something that my little brother and sister, even when they were really little, they loved this and requested it. Dinner the next night was off a meal plan just a little bit. I was going to try the Cozy Cooks beef stew recipe, but to be quite honest, I just didn't feel like doing the prep work. I was feeling lazy, so I decided to just do the pot roast that I normally make. I've shared this before, but I'll just quickly go over it. Here are the ingredients that I'm going to use. I've got an onion that I'm going to chop up, some baby carrots, and then normally I put potatoes in this, but again, didn't feel like peeling and chopping the potatoes, so I decided to just do mashed potatoes on the side using the Ore-Ida Steam and Mash. I have a little packet of onion soup mix and then a can of cream of mushroom soup. And normally I do either 1 or 2 cans of cream of mushroom, depending on how big my roast is. Today I decided to try this cream of mushroom with roasted garlic. This was really good. And then I've got some beef broth. All right, so what I did here was I laid down my vegetables in the bottom of my crock pot liner. I seasoned the roast really well with some salt and pepper on both sides. Placed the roast on top of the vegetables, and then in a bowl or measuring cup, I mixed up the soups, the onion soup mix, and the beef broth. I'm going to pour that over the roast, cover it with a lid, and then cook this low and slow all day. Here is what it looked like when it was done, and it was really hard for me to do this one-handed, but what I was trying to show you here is just how like fall apart tender that roast was. Now, what I will do sometimes is remove the roast and then make like a cornstarch slurry to thicken up that mixture to make a gravy. Here are the plates. We've got some of the roast, the potatoes, the rolls, and then I've got some of the lima beans. And right before we ate, we added ketchup to our pot roast. We love ketchup with our roast. What do you all like? Comment down below. I've heard some people say they put like A1 on it. I think a couple people have told me they put ranch, but I'm just curious because I'm not as adventurous, but I know my husband will try it. So leave me a comment down below and I'll have him try it and kind of taste test for us. But this was the perfect Sunday dinner. It was delicious, comforting. It was chilly this day, so it was just warm, stuck to our ribs, just so yummy. If you've never tried your pot roast using the cream of mushroom soup and the onion soup mix, I recommend you give it a try. It's really flavorful and yummy. Finally, I had a pork butt in my freezer that I wanted to use up. I got it a few months ago on sale at Kroger. I thawed it in the fridge. I'm going to add it to my crock pot. Now, I've shared how I make my pulled pork before on my channel, but I wanted to share it again, make it the way that my dad taught me, and it is delicious. Now, to season it, use whatever seasonings you prefer. I made it this way for the 9/11 service project last month, and I took a sample bite of it and thought it was delicious. So I wanted to try it for my husband and I. I'm just using the Kinder's barbecue seasoning and the brown sugar garlic. So I'm going to season all sides of the pork butt, and then to the bottom of the crock pot, I am going to add a little bit of root beer. You don't have to do this. You could also use Coke, Dr. Pepper, some broth, or just plain water. But my dad uses the root beer, and it gives it a really good flavor. Now, I'm also going to add a couple drops of liquid smoke. Go easy with this. A little bit goes a long way. I'm going to cover this with a lid and cook this on low for about 8 hours. Here's what it looked like when it was done. It was so tender, it just fell right apart. Now I'm draining most of the liquid off. I did leave just a little bit. And a quick note, my pork shoulder was about 3 pounds. If you're using a large pork butt, I would suggest you cutting it into smaller pieces. Otherwise, it's going to take you quite a bit longer for it to cook, for it to get really good and tender. So once I shredded it, I added it back to the crock pot, and then you can serve it just like that and allow people to add barbecue sauce themselves. But for just my husband and I, we both like barbecue sauce with it. So I added some of the Sweet Baby Ray's and stirred it up, and then I covered it with the lid until the rest of dinner was ready. A picture of my plate. So I've got the pulled pork, the bun, some extra barbecue sauce, the mac and cheese and greens, and this dinner was so incredibly delicious. Tonight for dinner, I'm going to be making slow cooker chicken tacos. This is another super easy dinner. It takes just a couple of ingredients and it's really good. So let me show you what you'll need. You'll need some chicken, some ranch seasoning, some taco seasoning, and then a little bit of cooking spray for your slow cooker. To get started, I'm going to spray my crock pot with some cooking spray and then add my chicken. I'm using 2 large chicken breasts here. I'm then going to add my ranch dressing mix. I'm using about 1.5 tablespoons. And finally, I'm going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of taco seasoning for this amount of chicken. If you're using about 4 or 5 chicken breasts, just use a packet of taco seasoning and a packet of ranch dressing. Then I'm going to stir that around a little bit, cover that with a lid, and cook that on low for about 4 to 6 hours or until your chicken is cooked through and tender. And here are the finished plates. You can serve these with whatever toppings you like. I've got our shredded chicken on some warmed up tortillas with some shredded cheese, shredded lettuce, some Roma tomatoes, and then our cheesy fiesta potatoes on the side. I've also got a couple of condiments here, some Taco Bell mild sauce, some Baja sauce, and some hot sauce that we can add. And that's dinner tonight. Next up, I'm making cranberry orange chicken. This recipe is my mother-in-law's recipe, and this is another recipe that is really quick and easy, and it only has a few ingredients, very budget-friendly. Let me show you what you'll need. You'll need whole cranberry sauce, some orange juice, and then chicken. I like to use chicken tenders because that's what my mother-in-law uses, and so that's just how I'm used to eating it. But you could also use chicken breasts instead. Chicken breasts are a lot of times much more affordable than chicken tenders. You could leave the chicken breasts whole, or you could cut them into chicken tender shapes. And then I like to use some salt and pepper. You can use whatever seasonings you like. I'm going to spray my crock pot liner with a little cooking spray, and then again, we're just basically dumping everything into the crock pot. I'm going to add my chicken tenders. I'm going to season both sides with some salt and pepper, and then I just decided to add a little Badia Complete. I never tried it before, but it's actually pretty tasty, so I'd do that again. But again, use whatever seasonings you like. Next, I'm going to add in my orange juice. You can use your favorite brand, or you could also take just fresh oranges and squeeze them over the chicken. I'm then going to add in the cranberry sauce, give this a stir, and I placed the lid on this, and I cooked this on high for about 2 hours. You could also cook it on low for 3 to 4 hours. Keep in mind the chicken tenders are pretty small, so they are going to cook pretty quickly. You just want to make sure you cook it until the chicken is at least 165 degrees internal temperature. Here is the finished chicken. Here's everything served up. We have the asparagus, the rice pilaf, and I did sprinkle a little extra almonds on top of the rice pilaf. I added some of the chicken and then drizzled some of the orange juice and cranberry liquid from the crock pot over the chicken and rice, and that was our dinner this night.